entire list of people, 840.
Wow.
So many of them are done all of them. Because when they finish this one name is in there at least 20 times. Yeah, same person over and over and over. It's just, it's like this company wants to increase their capture rate by cheating. That's me, Mariana. That thing is she actually answered the phone when I called. She just sold her house like in October.
Oh.
One of the few people that I actually got to talk to. 29. All right. Oh, DC. Okay. Hit okay on that. See that? Yeah. That's good. Bring it down to 145. Yeah. Good snow party going there, right?
No, we're in Hawaii, not Colorado.
That's right. That's rather chilly in Colorado on November 18th. Might be short. I talked to this guy, Michael Rago, yesterday, in, where is he? In Nulato, California. Owns the village, Villages, number 314. Yeah. And nice guy. You know, I had a nice conversation with him. Yeah, but you know, I'm represented by Rebecca Kilio-Humala. Was like, oh, okay, great. Well, you're in good hands. Like, well, I'm not soliciting her client. I just want to, I'm just reaching out to people to see if anybody that isn't represented might give you to the list. He was real cool about it all. Musburger, though, he's all ours. Toddster.
We got a box of stuff from Amazon.
Today? Good. I can go. You go last room? He was,
Good morning, Courtney. Good morning, Aiko. Welcome.
Good
Can you
morning.
hear?
morning.
Thank you.
Was Andy coming in?
I thought Annie would be here. Aisha will be joining Zoom. She's. Thank you for waiting patiently as we're waiting for a few more participants joining. Hello, Saifon. Thank you for joining. Can you hear okay? You can unmute in the lower left-hand corner. Siphon join.
Siphon join, okay, good.
So Ginny Dixon and Aisha. Linda and Andy Silvestri.
I'll give it a couple more minutes. And
Okay. Courtney, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. A question, were you able to call into the DCCA and get any status update?
I asked kindly for an ETA of when they thought. They just kind of briefly said it was out of my hands and it'll happen whenever it happens. So I kind of just didn't argue and just said, okay.
I had one of our agents, Lisa, ended up calling 3 times to the DCCA, and finally we saw the status change. So
I just kind of told Cheryl, the manager, I just said, don't mind me, but I'm going to be that person that calls about 3 or 4 times a day.
so polite about it. Thank you.
I tried calling Andy, she didn't answer.
She's on her way then.
Could be. Let me grab my phone and then I'll get started.
Okay. Oh, good. Ginny Dixon just arrived, and hopefully Andy will be coming in anytime.
They're right here.
We have handouts right here. You can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That? Yep, you're good to go.
It's easy for you to say.
You'll be fine. Painless.
Actually, it was really fun last time. I was surprised. At first, every time you always hear about a business planning going, over here just in case. But it was like, oh, do I really have to? Like, oh, it was just that. Oh. Oh, very cool.
One more minute. We'll start at 11:05 and
Okay.
we'll get rolling here.
Thank you. Are you looking forward to your holiday?
I am. I'm looking forward to the Thanksgiving Day weekend. I am a big college football fan, and so I'm a bit of a couch potato on the Thanksgiving weekend. I try to catch as much college football as I can. Well, I root for my alma mater, which is Syracuse, and I got hooked on college football because I was a sportscaster, and I used to broadcast Syracuse University basketball and football games. Yeah, so on Saturdays, I would be, in the broadcast booth, broadcasting Syracuse football games, and I loved everything about college football, still do. My brother-in-law, he would normally come into town for Thanksgiving every year, and he was a big college football fan. And he and I'd have a buddy to park myself on the couch with, and we would just be 2 couch potatoes. But he died tragically a couple of years ago at 49 years of age from a massive heart attack in his sleep.
And so I'm going to be missing him. I'm missing him the last couple of years. He was my buddy.
Yeah, is this your wife's brother?
My wife's sister's husband. Yeah, they have. All right, well, let's get started. Hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. And I hope I know it's a little difficult to see this chart, but that's what we're going to be referencing today. In the first sheet that I want you to pull out, it says my annual action plan. My annual action plan. Then below that, it says my annual economic model. And this is the stuff that you're going to need to, when I gave you the email and I was saying, hey, listen, you're going to need to know what your average price point is. You're going to need to know how many units you did in 2019 and 2020. You're going to need to know what your average commission rate is. All of that can be pulled from your data from the last 2 years. Now, normally we would only pull the data from the previous year. But since 2020 was a funky year for everybody, we're using 2 years to kind of average and say, okay, what would 2019 and 2020 look like? Now, for those of you who are new to real estate and haven't had a year of data, then you're just going to make some assumptions, right? We're going to make some assumptions on what your average commission rate is and what your average price point could be, or what you want your average price point to be. All right. So if you've got the My Action Plan in front of you, we're going to kind of work backwards. And at the top, there's a step 1 and a step 2. I actually want you to go to the bottom line of step 2, where it says gross commission income. And now, again, this is going to be different for all of you, but I'm going to run through this as an example of what could be. And you can write these numbers down, make another copy of this sheet, and then do it for yourself. But I want to run through it one time with you so you know how to do it. Okay. So if in the gross commission income, I put $500,000, okay? That's just a goal of what to shoot for. Now, that does not include all of your expenses. And so up at the top, you'll see net income. And what I wanted to figure out was, how would an agent on this island make roughly $200,000 a year? What would that look like? What would that entail? How many deals would that be? If you had to net 200, and I mean a true net of 200, that means no, you've paid all your expenses, you've paid all your taxes, you've paid all your splits, you've paid all your referrals, and you truly had 200,000 in your bank account. So we're starting with the premise here of 500,000 in gross commission income. Now we'll move up a line to where it says operating expenses. What are operating expenses? These are photography, brochures, Facebook ads, cost of putting up signs, buying signs, any type of marketing or anything that you have to pay for to run your business, any technology, things of that nature. All goes into operating expense. And you'll see that the model says that your operating expenses should be 29.2% or 30% of your business. That would be normal for most people to have about a 30% expense rate. And so what we do is we take 500,000 and we multiply it times 30%, or 29.2 in this case. And we come up with $146,000 in expenses, okay? Now, the line above that says cost of sales. Well, what would be cost of sales? The cost of sales are splits that you have to pay to your brokerage firm. The cost of sales would be referral fees that you had to pay to other agents. If you had a team and there were people underneath you in the team and you were splitting commissions with other people on the team, that would be all cost of sales. Now, I know there are not a lot of teams on the island, and I know that most of you work as independent contractors and it's just you. So this cost of sales may not be 29.2%. The cost of sales here at 29.2 is really for a team. This is 2 or more people and how much it would cost them in cost of sales. You, for this exercise, could plan on something at about 15, maybe 17% as a single agent of what cost of sales would be. Again, for this exercise, I'm going to suggest that we're a team, and because I am with Chris, and I'm going to take another deduction of $146,000. Okay, so I've got $146,000 in expenses. I have $146,000 in cost of sale. If you take these two numbers, add them, and subtract from your $500,000 in gross GCI, we get a $200,000 net income. Okay. Now this is the easy part because anyone can do this exercise. Anyone can say, I want to make this. Okay. And then you can back your way into what the gross commission is. So figure out what that is for yourself. I want to make 150,000. I want to make 175,000. Because now when we get to the bottom of this page, where we start splitting off into buyer and seller, we're going to really know exactly how many sellers we have to represent and sell and how many buyers we're going to have to do. So we're going to start on the seller side. Now, one of the exercises, one of the things, and you guys who are on Zoom, you can interrupt me at any time and ask me a question if you're lost. So please do. When you look at the left-hand column, it says gross revenue from sellers. We're going to start with sellers. The right-hand column says gross revenue from buyers. And what it wants to know is, hey, over the last year or 2 years, what was your split like? Were you 60% sellers and 40% buyers? Were you 50-50? Were you more heavy on the buy side? Were you 70% buyers and only 30% sellers? What was it? What is the split? And based on that, then you'll be able to fill out each column, okay? So this is what I'm thinking. Yeah, you have a question.
What is a good split between sellers and buyers?
60-40 seller to buyer. Ideal. I mean, if it's more, even if it's 70-30, that's fine. Remember what I always tell everybody. Listings are leverage. If you control the listings, you control the market, okay? You got to have the listings. And there's a good chance for every listing that you have, you're going to pick up 2 buyers that are unrepresented, that you can go then represent and help them buy a place. And so if you get a listing, our internal statistics in Denver, every time we put a sign in the yard, said we put a sign in the yard, that means we got at least 10 phone calls. 10 buyer phone calls from every sign. Out of the 10 buyer phone calls, at least 2 people were not represented, and we knew we had a shot to represent at least 2 people on the buy side. And so I want to get 3 deals out of 1 listing. That's my goal. I want to sell the listing and I want to pick up 2 buyers. I always want to get 3 deals. I don't want to do 1 deal, because if you're a heavy buyer agent, you're getting 1 person and 1 deal. Get 1 transaction that produces 3 deals, okay? Sort of like an agent on my team a number of years ago decided that he was going to go after nothing but divorces, and that he aligned himself with divorce attorneys. That's all he did. He went and marketed his whole business to divorce attorneys. And because he wanted multiple deals out of the same transaction, the people getting divorced for selling the house, the husband was probably buying something, the wife was probably buying something. Now, what they don't tell you in that scenario is that, you know, people who are getting divorced are a little crazy, and they're going to make you crazy, right? And so you got to think about your sanity when you're going after divorces as a business plan. Now, for this particular business plan, I assumed that we did that 50% of our business came from sellers and 50% came from buyers. And I just did that for ease. But if it were 70%, then what you would do is you would take 500,000 and you would multiply it times 70%. And this is how you would get that top line, gross revenue from sellers. In this case, I took 500,000, I multiplied it times 50%, and I've got $250,000 of gross revenue from sellers. I also have $250,000 in gross revenue from buyers. Let's start with sellers. Now, if you look, it says 250,000 of gross revenue from sellers, right? Divided by a 3% commission. And so we divided this by 3%, okay? And we got 8,333,333. That's the dollar volume that you would have to do on the sell side. You'd roughly have to represent sellers to the tune of about $8 million worth of real estate. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Good? Of the seller volume, we are then going to divide that again by what the average sale price was. And the reason why, this is why you need to know average sale price, right? So you take a look at all of your sell side transactions for 2019 and 2020, you add them all up, you divide by the number, and you get what your average is. I use the number 750 here. The reason why I use 750 was because that's roughly the average price of a home in Kona. And I'm not relying any past data, okay? So if you're a new agent, you could plug in 750. If you think you're going to do a lot of condos, maybe you're plugging in 400. But I took 8 million in volume and I divided it by $750,000. And what it told me was I would do 12 listings. I would sell 12 listings. If I did 8 million in volume and an average price was 750, that meant 12 deals sold on the sell side, okay? Now, this is where it gets interesting. Yeah, I can sell 12 listings. However, you don't sell every listing that you take. And so it says, now take the number 12 and divide it by 65%. Because again, we don't sell everything we list. And so what it tells us is that we really have to take 18 listings. We have to take 18 in order to sell 12. Now, again, you don't get every listing that you go on. And so how many listings do we actually have to go on to take 18? So now you take the number 18 and you divide it by 80%. We're saying, hey, 8 out of 10 listing appointments we're going to go on, we're going to get those, okay? You don't get 100%. So now we're going to take 18, we're going to divide it by 80%, and it says that we're going to need to go on 23 listing appointments, okay? Now, how many listing appointments is that per month? Right? So you take 23 listing appointments, divide it by 12, and that means that we have to go on 2 listing appointments per month, or a half of a listing appointment a week, right? If that's possible. So now think about the progression. We're going to have to go on 2 listing appointments a month. That will yield us 23 listing appointments in a calendar year. Of that 23, we're going to take 18 listings. Of the 18 listings, we're going to sell 12. And if we sell 12 at an average price of $750, we're going to do 8 million in volume. And if we do 8 million in volume at a 3% commission, we're going to make $250,000 on the sell side. Everybody with me on that? Questions?
Yvonne just texted me and said it was kind of hard to see on the
Sheet,
paper,
yeah.
on the sheet.
That's why I'm telling you the numbers to fill in on each slot, okay? So write them down on your paper and then you can go over them with me. Now, do the same exercise over here on the buy side, right? 50% of our income came from buyers. It's 250,000. If we divide that by an average commission of 3%, we're gonna have 8,333,000 in dollar volume on the buy side. Now, just for kicks, we decided to mix it up a little bit, and we said, well, no, our buy side is gonna be a higher price point. We tend to work with buyers closer to $1 million. And so we made our average price point to mix it up here, 910. Okay, so if I take $8 million and I divide it by an average price of 910,000, it comes up that I have to do 9 buyer sides sold. 9, okay? Now, if I divide that by what percentage are they giving us? 80%. If I divide 9 by 80, that means I have to work with 11 buyers in a calendar year, 11 buyers in order to get 9 of those buyers to the closing table. And if I have to work with 11, that means I have to meet 17, because not every buyer we meet works with us. So we got to meet 17 buyers. Out of the 17 buyers, we're going to have to meet with like 1.7 buyers per month. So let's just call it 2 buyers per month you gotta meet with, or a half a week. So again, running through the progression, got to meet with 2 buyers a month. You have to be working with 17 of them in a calendar year. Of the 17, you're going to represent 11. Of the 11, 9 will buy at an average price point of 910. Dollar volume will be 833.33 at a 3% commission for 250,000. That gives you your 500,000 in GCI. So in all, in the 12-month period, you're looking at 21 units. You're looking at 12 on the sell side and 9 on the buy side, for a gross of 500 and a net of 208. Now, you can plug in your own numbers here, because you can either plug it in from your data, or you can plug it in for what you want your business plan to be, what you want your average price point to be, what you want your average commission rate to be, and then you can run it from there. Basically, what this is saying is you need to go on 2 listing appointments a month, and you need to meet with 2 buyers a month if you want to make around $210,000. Questions on this?
This is, you know, we look at these numbers here for the west side, but if it's on the east side,
If it's on the east side and the price point drops dramatically, then you're going to have to do a heck of a lot more units, right?
and they seem to be doing a lot more on that side because of the price point.
Well, sure, if your average price point is 250 here instead of 750, then this number is going to go way up. Same here. All right. Questions about how to fill that out? Okay. Moving on to what we call the 135. That looks like this. 135. Okay. Now, what we just did gives you what I call the 1,000-foot level. It says, okay, that's really nice. I know exactly how many listings I have to have. I know exactly how many buyers I have to have, but how do I get there? Like, what do I do to get 12 listings? Like, what are my opportunities to meet, 9 buyers, or 11 buyers? What do I do? And so the 135 is set up as such. Let me give you this. Hang on a second. So the one goal up at the top is what you want to achieve. What is your one main objective? Now, you'll notice that on my sheet here, I have put the money, right? My one goal was to make 208,000, but it doesn't have to be just the money. You could say, I'd like to make 208,000 and still have a life, right? I'd like some free time. I'd like to surf. I'd like to boogie board. I'd like to hike. I'd like to do whatever. So you don't, the one objective of the main business objective or goal for the year doesn't just have to be the money, but in this case, we put the money. Then what you'll see below that is three strategies or sub goals that we're using in order to achieve the 208,000. And then below that, you've got five tactics that you have to do under each strategy in order to pull that off. In other words, you do the five tactics, you'll pull off the strategy. You do the three strategies, you'll make the $208,000. And so let me give you some examples of what could go in here. Again, you're going to have to think for yourself, what is it that I'm going to do in order to generate this business? Now, here's the one piece of advice I will give you. Many of you know that I was also in the fitness business, in the fitness industry. And people would come to me and they'd say, hey, Dan, because I wrote books and I did videos, and they'd say, Dan, I'm really ready. I'm excited about getting in shape. And I'd say, great. What are we going to do to get in shape? And they'd say, well, you know, beginning Monday, I'm going to start running. Every morning, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a run. And I'd say, great. Do you like to run? And they'd say, no, I hate to run. And I'd say, well, you're going to be a miserable failure at this then. This is not going to work. And so my point to you is, when you're thinking about filling out this sheet, don't think about lead generation activities that you know you're not going to do. Like if you despise cold calling, don't cold call, because you're not going to do it and you're not going to stick with it. You'll be a miserable failure at it. For instance, everybody's got stuff that they like. I despise social media. I hate social media. I don't like getting on social media. I don't like posting. I don't like reading social media. I don't like anything about social media. So you won't see me doing stuff on social media. However, I have no problem cold calling. I have no problem picking up the phone and calling a bunch of strangers who I don't know and never met and asking them for business. I can do that all day long. I have no problem with rejection. As I said, I was my mother's third choice. I'm okay with it. So I can do it all day long. But the point is, I want you to pick things that you like to do and will do. Another example, Scott Davidson, longtime agent on my team in Colorado, has an amazing business. He came on board and he had a very boy next door look, right? He had a very genuine look to him, very kind of, shucks, I'd like to get to know this guy, very sincere, great. He says to me, well, I said, what are you going to do for business? He said, I think I'm going to go door knock. I'm thinking, wow, that's ambitious. Not a lot of people like to door knock. And he's brand new to the business, and this is what he's going to do. He's going to go door knock. I said, well, great, kid. I said, let's talk about the plan, right? Because you just can't go door knock. There always has to be a system and model involved when you do something. And so we talked about the system and we talked about the model to door knocking that would work and succeed. So he goes out in an afternoon, 4 o'clock, spring. He went to this subdivision called Trasana. We had a lot of subdivisions in Colorado. And about an hour into it, he calls me and he says, hey, I need some help. I got to answer some questions. This lady is asking me this, this, and this, and this. I said, where are you? He goes, well, I'm sitting in the living room of so-and-so and so-and-so's house. I said, aren't you door knocking? He said, yeah, I am door knocking. He said, the third door I knocked on, they invited me in for coffee and Danish. And I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. Like he's knocked 3 doors and he's already in someone's living room and eating coffee or drinking coffee and eating Danish. I mean, this guy's got something. So he asked me all these questions. Turns out they want to list their townhome. And so he comes out of that, I don't know, the next morning he comes into the office and he gets 3 deals out of door knocking. First time out, gave him some scripts, gave him some objection handlers, gave him a system, and he comes out with 3 deals. So I sit him down and I said, listen, whatever you do, Like, don't cold call, don't social media, don't do this, don't do that, don't do anything other than door knock. Like, that is your thing. You got the face for it, you got the demeanor for it, people like you, they invite you in. Don't do anything other than door knock. And that's to this day, he just door knocks, goes subdivision to subdivision to subdivision and door knocks, and makes an amazing business out of it. If you guys were part of Mega Camp, you maybe saw a video from, and we can produce it for you, from a lady named Nikki Klein. And Nikki Klein is a KW agent who had moved from the Northeast to Florida, and she moved to Boca Raton. And she didn't know anyone in Boca Raton. It was just her. She was single. She's a real estate agent. So she's starting a business from scratch in a brand new city where she knows no one. And she decides that she's going to start a Facebook group. And this is going to be her lead generation tool. And so she starts a Facebook group in her neighborhood where she's posting information about neighborhood events. She is posting information about charities and organizing neighbors to be a part of the charity. She is posting information about real estate. She's inviting people to join her group. Long story short, several years later, this Facebook group that she developed for her neighborhood is huge. It's massive. And she has a loyal and dedicated following of people in this neighborhood that use her for real estate. And she's built an entire business in a brand new city off nothing more than a Facebook group. It can be done. So figure out what it is for you. Now, I teach a class. I did it here earlier this year, and I'm happy to do it again. It's called 101 Lead Generation Ideas, where I literally give you 101 lead generation ideas. We go down all of them. But they would be worthless. Those lead gen ideas would be worthless unless I gave you a system to follow and use. And so one of the systems that we talk about in 101 lead gen ideas is what we call the 5 buckets. And as we're going down all of the 101 ideas, I tell everyone in the class, you can write them all down. Don't attempt to do them all, but only pick 5. Pick 5 things that you think you'll really, really do. And the idea is those are your 5 buckets. And out of each bucket, you should be able to pull 5 deals. So do the math. 5 deals, 5 buckets, you should get 25 deals at the end of the year. Figure out what your buckets are. I'll give you an example. One of my buckets used to be my kids' sporting events. Colorado sporting events were big. Micah was at baseball practice. He was at basketball practice. Malia was at softball. She was at gymnastics. I was perpetually at some type of practice or a game 4 to 5 days a week. I mean, I was constantly on the run. Now, what happens when I go to these? I pull up. Who do I see? The same parents that are there every day, just like me. And I would see Chad, and Chad and I would start talking. And Chad would always say, he almost inevitably within like 10 minutes of the conversation, so Dan, how's the market? Because everyone knew I was a real estate agent. How's the market? And I would start, this was purposeful on my part, I would start replying to how's the market. I would answer the question, and I would purposely stop myself halfway into the sentence. I'd say, inventory's really low, stuff's really flying off the market. It seems like, just out of curiosity, Chad, why do you ask? I would always stop and say, why do you ask? And he'd say, well, I'm thinking about upgrading. I'm thinking about downsizing. I'm thinking about buying an investment property. They're always thinking about something, and you got to figure out what they're thinking about in real estate. So ask them, why do you ask? They're going to give you an answer, right? Oh, I'm just curious. Probably not. They're probably thinking about something down the road, but it gives you an entrance into having this conversation with them, okay? So his sporting events were a bucket. I would pull 5 deals a year out of Micah and Malia's sporting events. Church was another bucket for me. Now, some people feel funny about, I don't know if I should be soliciting business at church. Well, I wasn't standing outside of church with a sandwich board that said, hire me, I'm a realtor. I was, at the end of church, I would go to the main gathering area. I would talk to people. I would shake hands. I would have normal conversations with everybody. And inevitably, they all knew what I did. And they all asked me about the market. And so I would pull 5 deals out a year out of church. Okay. The gym is a bucket for me. I went to one of the largest fitness facilities in Colorado. It's called Lifetime Fitness. It was 350,000 square feet. It was massive. 3 indoor pools, 2 indoor football fields, huge. And I walked in every day at 6:30 a.m. every day. And the same people were there working out at 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. Morning, Dan. Morning, Dan. Hey, Dan. How's it going? Hey, Bruce. They all knew what I did. And we all had conversations about real estate. And I would pull 5 deals a year out of the gym. So I've just given you 5 examples of where you could potentially pull some deals and start thinking about that for yourself. What would be some of my 5 buckets? What would be some of my lead generation ideas? All right. So let's move forward on this 135. And what I did here, I pulled a real life example of a 135. And the guy I told you about, Scott Davidson, who worked on my team, this was his 2019. We filled this out in 2018. This was his 2019 135 about what he was going to do in order to get to his money goal. Okay. So his first objective or his first strategy, his number 1 there underneath the main goal was touch my sphere or database. Okay. So that's why I have written here working database. What Scott wanted to do was he wanted to work his database much more effectively and on a higher level. So if that was one of the strategies, what were the 5 things that needed to happen in order for him to pull that off? Well, the first thing he had to do was reevaluate calling plan and implement a new plan. Okay, so he didn't like the way or plan that he had on how to touch his sphere. Now, for those of you who have gone through Bold, offered by Keller Williams, Bold is offered twice a year. For those of you who've gone through Bold, you know that Bold automatically gives you a calling plan on how to touch your sphere 4 times a year. And it's a tagging system where they have you go in command and they have you tag everyone with the last name ending in A and W. And you tag them with AW. They have, then they've got the next one, I think it's B and E. And everyone with the last name ending in B or starts with B or the last name with E, they get tagged B and E. And so you go through the whole alphabet and you tag them. And then it says the calling plan is this. It's week 1, January 1st. Time to start your quarterly call plan. And it's time to call all of the A and Ws. And so you go in command and you filter your database by all of the A and Ws. And let's say you have 30 people that have a last name starting with A or W. You're going to call all 30 of those in that week. Because in week 2 of January, they're going to tell you to call all the B and Es. And you're going to get through all of that in about 8 weeks. And you would have called everyone in your database. Question is, when I call everyone in my database, what do I say to them? Right? Well, that we believe it or not, you're going to find this hard to believe, but Keller Williams has a script for that. We have a script for everything. Okay. And so the script is Ford, F-O-R-D. It's the Ford system. So talk about their family, talk about their occupation, talk about their recreation, and talk about their dreams. Talk about the Ford system, those 4 things: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. So you say something like, Ginny, how's the family? And you just start the conversation with the family. How's the job going? Job's going good. You guys doing anything for fun? Oh, we're thinking about going skiing. Okay. And then you get to, hey, what are you doing big to fulfill your dreams this year? Are you, oh, we're gonna take a trip to Barcelona. Whatever the case may be. And somewhere in that conversation, real estate will be discussed, because inevitably you can't have a conversation with somebody without them reciprocating and saying, so Ginny, how are you doing? What's life like for you? How is your business, right? And you're going to have an opportunity to talk about real estate in the Ford script, all right? So Scott's number one thing here is he wanted to reevaluate his calling plan and come up with a new plan. His second one was birthdays and anniversaries. In order to touch his sphere on a higher level, he needed to make sure he did a better job at reaching out to people for their birthdays and their anniversaries. The great thing is that Command inside of Keller Williams does all of that for you. You don't actually have to do it. We have smart plans that set all of that up. So you go through your database, you add in everybody's birthday, and then you connect that person to a smart plan. And you can tell the smart plan to do whatever you want. You could say, hey, send them this birthday email. Hey, send them this birthday text. Hey, send them, or just give me a task reminder to call these people on this day. But Command automates the whole thing for you. So you don't have to worry about reaching out to everybody on their birthdays and home anniversaries. You just set it up once and forget it, right? Okay. He said, consider an item of value for his sphere. Now, items of value work. A lot of you who are new to the business are going to say, well, don't tell me you're really sending out a calendar at the end of the year, Dan. Yeah, I'm sending out a calendar at the end of the year. They still work. They worked 40 years ago. They still work today. In fact, when I first got into the business, my business partner, Gary, was considerably older than me. He was about 17 years older than me, and he faithfully, every single year, mailed out that calendar for the next year in December. Did it like clockwork. When I came into the business, I was new school. I was a little bit more technology savvy. I was creative. I was out of the box. And I'm thinking, we're really not going to keep mailing calendars, are we? He's like, listen, people love these calendars. So one year I convinced Gary not to spend the money and not to send the calendar, right? He finally went along with me. I think it was really, but we didn't even get to the end of January where the phone calls started coming in from Gary's database that said, hey, we didn't get our calendar this year. I kid you not. They were upset. They thought they got lost in the mail. They thought we might have forgotten them, whatever the case may be. It works. So consider what is the item of value that you're going to mail your database once a year. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be expensive, just has to be something that reminds them of you, all right? Invite key potential sphere contacts to client appreciation party. Okay, so at the Colorado Dream House team, we had a massive database of almost 4,000 clients. And so we would do 3 events per year, every year. 2 of them were a client appreciation event, and 1 of them was a charity event that we did. Now, I don't know, since there's so many people that live on this, that don't live on this island that are your clients, if a client appreciation event could actually be pulled off and pulled off well here. But there are variations that you could do this. And so Scott wanted to be intentional with his sphere about really reaching out and making sure that these clients were coming to our events, okay? And we did an event every February where we rented something out. We rented out a theater for all of our clients and showed a movie privately to them. We rented out a bowling alley. We rented out a Dave & Buster's. If you guys know what a Dave & Buster's are, it's kind of like a fun place where you play all the games. We've rented out all of these places and closed them down just for our clients. Charity events we did, it was great. I mean, charity events just, the goal of the charity event was to help people, But as it turned out, the charity event was the biggest driver of deals and transactions and sales for us than anything we could have ever done. It was better than the client appreciation party. So one year we would partner with like Coats for Colorado, and we would reach out to our sphere with an email and mail campaign, and we would ask them if they would consider donating coats so we could give it to the needy. And we offered two ways. We said, you can either drop off your coats here at our office and we'll collect them and take them on the day that they need to be donated, or we can stop by your house and pick them up for you. Either way, we were intentional about that because we wanted to see them. We either wanted to see the client when they came in the office, or we wanted to go to their house and see them and get face to face with them. But you can't imagine, we had truckloads of coats donated to us that we gave to the homeless. And everybody at my sphere in Denver knew that every October I did a charity event, and they were waiting for it. They were looking for it. Like, hey, Dan, what's this year's charity event? Like, what are we doing this year for charity? They waited for it. And you can't believe the amount of business that came off of that. People just saying, man, I think you guys are great. What you do here in the community. And oh, by the way, my brother's selling his house. I told him about you. You should call him. That's how it would go. That's how the conversation would be. All right. Choose, his number 5 here was choose spheres in your contacts and go to lunch. This is what I call the 52 lunch program. Okay. The 52 lunch program is open up your phone book once a week and invite somebody to lunch. It's that simple. It's nothing more than that strategy. Go into command, look at your sphere. If they live in town, take them to lunch. Who could you take to lunch? Well, yeah, you could take a past client to lunch, but you could also take your dentist to lunch. They say, well, why would I want to take my dentist? I said, is there a chance that your dentist owns a house? Yes. Is there a chance that your dentist could buy another house? Yes. Could he sell his house? Yes. So take your dentist to lunch. Vendors, contractors, your dry cleaner, anyone that you do business with on a regular basis or past clients, take them to lunch and just have a usual easy conversation, because at some point in that conversation, it's going to turn to real estate, right? And you're going to have an opportunity to earn some business. Now, you do this once a week for 52 weeks. You got to pick out 52 people. Order the salad because I think I gained 7 to 10 pounds on the 52 lunch program. So be careful, but enjoy. All right. All right. So those were his 5 right here, his 5 tactics for working his database better and on a higher level. Any questions up to this point?
Dan, I have a question. This is Aisha. I'm calling in from Hilo.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so when you talk about the birthdays and anniversaries, I love that idea, and I know that Command helps us a lot to be able to jump in and be able to do the smart plan. But how do you? And that's like a rookie question. How do you approach anybody asking them when the birthdays are or anniversary? It sounds salesy.
Sure. Well, there's 2 things that we did that I think everyone should do going forward.
Yes.
When you go to the closing table with your clients and they close a transaction, guess what they have to provide to the closing agent?
But that's at closing. I mean, we're talking about like rookies like me. Who am I going to get that information before? So you have to wait until you have enough.
Yep. Okay. So hang on. I'm going to get there. So step 1 is every time you go to a closing, the closing agent has to ask for a copy of their license, ask for the closing agent to give you a copy of the license so you can take their birth date off there and get it in your database. That's part 1. That was a rule by our admin. Number 2, you control them on social media, right? Many people on social media put their birth dates out there automatically. And then number 3 is you can just ask them, right? You can set up a smart plan in Command that says, hey, you're important to me. You're not only a client, but you're a friend. And I want to make sure that I recognize you on your birthday every year. Would you be so kind as to tell me what day your birthday is, and I will be sure to reach out and make sure I wish you a happy birthday.
Oh, that's really cool. And then you'll ask for the month and the day. We never ask for the year.
Not with the women, at least. Correct.
Right. Lesson learned. Everybody learned that one the hard way.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's right.
man. That's good. Yeah.
You bet. Other questions?
Yeah, you brought up a good thing. It's on social media, a lot of things.
Correct. Yeah. All right, so let's look at Scott's second strategy, right? His second strategy, his number 2 up at the top was develop his farms, right? Farms were a big deal in Colorado. As I said, a lot of subdivisions. There's a lot fewer subdivisions here, but there are some, and there you can take certain areas and call it a farm, just because it's not a subdivision. So in other words, if you live up in Waikoloa Village, let's make Waikoloa Village your farm. Let's get all of the addresses and all of the, and let's make that our farm. And so what he wants to do is he wants to develop his farm on a higher level. He wants to pull more deals out of his farm. And so what are his 5 tactics to do that? His first one was door knocking Trasana. He wants to continue his door knocking in that particular subdivision because that subdivision apparently is yielding some pretty good fruit. And, you know, in Colorado, we would figure out which subdivisions to go door knock based on you've heard this saying before. Well, I'm not going to farm that area because that agent owns that area, that territory. So what I've been able to see here in Hawaii, at least on the west side, is, yeah, Yvonne Morgan probably does a boatload of deals out at Manalani, but she doesn't own that by any means. Owning that market would mean that she sells 25% or more of the available inventory, and she does not have anywhere close to a 25% market share there. Not anywhere close. And as I keep looking around, I look in my subdivision, Hualalai Vistas, no one has an arm hold in Hualalai Vistas. No one has an arm hold in Kona Hills. There's some agents that do some good business in Keho, but no one has a 25% market share. So we would look at 3 factors when we were looking at farms. We would say, does anyone have a 25% market share? No? Okay, that's a green light. Second thing, how many homes came for sale in that subdivision? Because if there were really, if really rarely anyone ever moved, why would you go market it? Why would you go knock it? Why would you got to have at least a fairly good turnover rate. And I would say about 10%. You better have at least 10% of that neighborhood turning over. That was the second factor we looked at. And the third factor was how quickly do they sell and turn over? When I looked at my subdivision of Highlands Ranch, we knew that people moved every 5.5 years, okay? And we knew exactly how many homes were coming up for sale every year, and we knew exactly who had the most market share. And if nobody was reaching 25%, we had 3 green lights, we would go market that farm, okay? So he wants to continue door knocking and walking Trasana. He also talks about the fact that he wants to start on some new farms, and he wants to work on the Knolls and Sunset. And these are areas that he had knocked before in the past, but he knocked it once and never followed up. He just like never went back and kept knocking it and trying to pull deals out of it. That's the same thing that happens to us when we get this crazy idea that we're going to do direct mail, right? Like take me, for instance. I came here, I know no one, I don't have any sphere. What does somebody like me do to get business? Well, I rely on what I know and how I built my business in Denver when I started out from scratch. I start with direct mail. So I got the lists and the addresses of all 3,000 people that live in Kohana'iki, Kokio, Hualalai, Mauna Kea, Manalani, all the way down the West Coast. There's 3,000 people that have homes there. I went to the title company. I said, can I have the list of homeowners for all of these subdivisions all the way down from here to Hawaii? And they said, sure. And so they gave it to me on an Excel sheet. I took that Excel sheet, I sent it to my printer. And I said, here's a list of 3,000 homes we're going to be mailing to. And then I went out and I started figuring out what was it that I was going to mail to them that was going to catch their attention. Now there's two mistakes that people make in mailing or door knocking. They don't do it enough and they don't have any follow-up. Okay. So whether you're talking about direct mail, you have to mail a lot. If you're going to go the direct mail route, you better plan on sending a piece a month, one piece every single month. Okay. So plan on a budget of what it's going to cost you to mail, in my case, to 3,000 homes 12 times. And that's my marketing budget for direct mail. Now, here's the other problem. A direct mail piece that's sent that isn't followed up on or called means nothing. It's wasted money. And so what I do is I mail and then I call. I mail and then I call. And people says, well, how do you get their phone numbers? Well, there's lots of ways to get their phone numbers. That same Excel sheet that has all 3,000 people's email address, you can take that Excel sheet and you can send it to a company called RedX. And RedX will upload that into their system and it'll search for all of their phone numbers. You can send it to a company called Vulcan 7. It'll search for all of their phone numbers for you. You can send it to a company called LandVoice. Now, thankfully, I've done all of the hard work already for you. Okay? I went ahead and I took that Excel sheet and I sent it to RedX. And out of the 3,000, they got like 30%. 70%, they couldn't even find their phone numbers. So I spent a month paying them to give me no results. I terminated that relationship. I moved on to Vulcan 7. I take the same sheet, I give it to Vulcan 7. They're a little bit better. They get me about 50%, maybe 45% of the phone numbers. Not anywhere what they promised. Oh, we'll get you 80% of the phone numbers. Okay, let's see if that's true. So I send it to them. I sign up for their service for 1 month. Terribly disappointing. It was horrible. I terminated my relationship with them. I move on to LandVoice. LandVoice says, oh, we're going to get you 80%. Well, LandVoice did the best. They got me about 65% of the phone numbers. Here's the other problem. Although they got me 65%, half of the 65% are on the do not call list. Okay? So now we're down to 32%. This is why this is a numbers game, everybody. You have to have a large volume of numbers because you think, oh, I'm going to mail and call 3,000 people. No, you're going to mail 3,000 people and you're going to get the phone numbers of about 30% of those people. So it's a numbers, it's a percentage game. All right. Questions about that?
Okay, sorry, I have another question, Dan, just actually again.
Yeah.
Okay, so with those 30, I'm always very concerned about the do not call. What is a good way, like these companies you mentioned, LandVoice and RedX and Vulcan 7, do they scrub for do not call?
Oh yeah, when you open up the contact, it'll say right there if they're on the do not call list in big red letters. Yep,
Yeah.
DNC. And so you just have to go on to the next record. You could try to call them and risk it, but you know, last I checked, it's about a $45,000 fine.
Okay, so on that one, I keep getting those, spam calls. So one of them today caught my attention. So it's a message. It says, if you like to proceed, click 1. If you're on a do not call, click 2. So there you have it. You will have that information if you just upfront send them only one call that identifies them to be on do not call or not. What do you think of that?
Yeah, the robocalls are even penalized more heavily than the actual person calling. So if you're using an auto dialer with a robocall and you get somebody who wants to prosecute you, it'll be worse than what I just described.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's not advisable, even though it's asking the question itself was, are you on a do not call or not? They're not obligated to get that call. They can still prosecute you with a call.
Absolutely.
Like that.
You bet.
Okay. Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
That's very steep. I mean, 45,000 is very steep as a fine. It's not pocket
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, right, right. Okay, his number 3 under develop my farm was choose to begin a new farm and a new place to knock. And so when Scott said, I've got to have something other than Trasana, I've got to have something other than the Knolls, I need a new farm, we went through the exercise I just described. Let's talk about what farms we would potentially look at. What is the average price point? Is that an average price point we want to work in? If the average price point in this farm is 200,000 and you want to up your game, you want to sell stuff that's 600,000, let's not farm that area. So we started with, well, let's look at farm areas that are 600,000. Does anyone have a 25% market share? How fast does it turn over, right? We started looking at those factors, and that's how we were determining where we're going to go next. His number 4 was circle prospect. What is circle prospecting? Okay, so Ginny gets a listing in Ali'i Heights, and she's just getting ready to put it on, and she uses a company called Cole, C-O-L-E, Cole Realty Resource, and she signs up for their service. And the cool thing about Cole is when you go into their platform, you type in Ginny's address, and it shows the little house on the map. It's a satellite view, just like you're used to. And then then Ginny says, hey, show me all of the people in a half-mile radius of my home. And then all of a sudden, all these little houses pop up with numbers on top of their roofs. And if you look at the corresponding column to the right, it's everybody's name, address, email, name, address, and phone number. And again, Cole will tell you if they're on the do not call list. The cool thing I like about Cole is that when you're looking at the neighborhood, you can see exactly where their house is in relation to yours. So now I'm going to call the lady 2 streets over, right, from my house. And I'm going to have a script for that says, hey, Antonita, this is Dan Palomino from Keller Williams. I'm just calling to let you know that I recently listed a house in your neighborhood. My house is over on Hu'ukana, and I noticed that you're on Leilani, 2 streets over. I'm just wondering if you know of anyone, any of your friends, colleagues, people that you know that was looking to move into the neighborhood that might be interested in purchasing my listing. And Antonita says, no, I can't think of anybody right off the top of my head. Well, let me ask you one other thing before I let you go, Antonita. It just seems like it's a pretty hot neighborhood. Like there's a lot of interest to live here. I'm anticipating this house to be sold really quickly. Are you interested in selling your house, or do you know of anyone that might be interested in selling your house? And she says, well, I'm not interested, but Bill, 2 doors over. Now, and I say, is that Bill to the right or to the left of you? Because I'm looking at the map while she's talking to me. And she says, oh, that's to the left of me. Oh, so that's 78-306. Yeah, that's Bill's house. He's interested in selling. Oh, okay, great. Well, I thank you for that. And if something changes, here's my name, here's my number, please give me a call. That's circle prospect, right? That's taking your listing that you just listed or you're sold, and it's circling around the neighborhood, trying to A, fish for a buyer, or B, fish for a new seller. Okay, so what Scott wanted to do here was, he said, wow, the Colorado Dream House team takes a lot of listings. We took a lot of listings, like 10 a month, right? And he said, I really should be circle prospecting all of the Colorado Dream House team's listings, because I could probably pull some more deals out of this. Okay, what's his number 5? He said, consider a personal mail out piece. So he was door knocking, and he said, you know what, maybe I should consider sending a direct mail piece. And so we had to go through the same rules that I just went over with you about direct mail, right? Got to send out at least 12. Got to be able to follow up with a phone call after you send it. Questions about his 5 strategies under Develop My Farm?
How about as new agents, we have some right here, do you recommend farming? What if they don't even know where to farm?
Well, first, figure out a price point that you want to work in. 2, figure out something that would be geographically easy for you, right? You live in North Kona and you decide you're going to go farm kale. Well, it's a little bit of a drive. You know, you got to figure out where you're going to farm by price point, like we talked about, by turnover, by market share, who does a lot of business in there, who doesn't, that type of thing. Okay. His number 3 on his goals or strategies to get to 208 was internet lead generation. And he said his number 1 was increase the follow-up time and frequency of the internet leads. We had internet leads coming into our website. I told everybody on the team that if you didn't follow up within 1 minute of the lead coming in, you had little to no chance to get them. Little to no chance. That's the same for you. If you get an internet lead into your website, if the office calls and gives you a lead, if you're not calling them within the first minute, for every minute that goes by, your chances of converting them to a buyer or seller drop dramatically. We had a system when the internet lead came in, it immediately got distributed out. Command does that if you're on a team. So Command will take the lead in. It will auto distribute to the team members on its own. It will alert them through a text, through an email, through a push notification on their phone. It will do everything it could possibly do except reach out of the phone and slap your face and say, call these people, right? So follow up and frequency. Now, here's the other thing that I used to get. Dan, I got this internet lead. You know how they are. They're just such cold leads. I've called them like 4 times. How many more times do I have to reach out before I just call them a dead lead? Answer, infinite. There is no time limit on how often you call or how many times you call. There's no magic number. I can't say, oh, you got to call 6 times before you give up. I can't say, oh, you got to call 12 times before you give up. I told everybody on my team the same thing. Here's what you do. You call or text until you get 1 of 2 responses. You're only looking for 1 of 2 responses. 1, don't you ever call me again. 2, thank you for being so persistent. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you. Those are the only 2 responses that can happen. You just keep calling and texting and calling and texting until they say, leave me alone, or thank you for being so persistent. That's it. Now, what the National Association of Realtors will tell you is that from the time that somebody goes into a website and fills out some type of contact form that you get, the average curation time is 6 to 9 months. Okay, that's it. It's 6 to 9 months. So Billy and Susie are sitting at the table and they decide that, you know, maybe it's time to look for a new house. Maybe it's time to upgrade. And from the time they have that conversation at the dinner table, they're usually buying a new house in 6 to 9 months. When they fill out your contact form on your website and they send in that contact, where did you catch them? Did you catch them in month 3 or did you catch them in month 6? The National Association of Realtors will tell you that when they reach out to an agent, they're usually in about month 6 of the process, which means they've got to find a home and now close in 3 months. So generally, as a rule, not always the case, but you're generally catching them in month 6 of the process of thinking about moving. You're usually catching them at a very motivated time. All right. Okay. His number 2 under internet lead generation is practice his scripts and objection handlers. Okay. If you get on the phone with an internet lead, you know how hard it is to get them on the phone. Now you finally got them. You made 14 phone calls to these people and you got them on lucky 14 and they answered. And you better be on top of your game because they're going to throw at you some serious objection handlers. And you got to know how to defer those. Now, what's the one thing that you want to do on that phone call when you do get them on? The only thing you're aiming for is an appointment. It's either a buyer appointment or a seller appointment. But the only objective you want when you come off that phone call is that you got the appointment. And the question is, when did you set the appointment for? Next week? Monday? 5 days from now? No. You've got to set the appointment in 24 to 48 hours. Tops. That's it. So be ready when you're on the phone with them. Say, I finally got Antonita on the phone. We're talking. The first thing out of my mouth is, shoot, I would really love to talk more about Waikoloa Beach Villas. I know it interests you. Is there any chance you could meet today at 4 o'clock? No, I can't meet today at 4 o'clock. Well, that's okay. I have 10 tomorrow, 10 a.m. available tomorrow. Be ready to throw out some times, but it's either today or it's tomorrow, and that's it, right? Because if you extend it past that and you give people time to think about this, they're canceling that meeting with you. I guarantee it. You give people 5 or 7 days to just have it ruminate up here, they're out. All right. So make sure you're good with your script. Make sure you know how you're going to get them to meet with you. Right? What's a common thing they're saying? Well, I know I filled that out on your website. I was just kicking tires. I'm not all that serious. We're going to buy somewhere down the line in 6 to 9 months. Well, that's great. Shoot, I sure would like to help you. Between now and then, would it be good if I could provide you some listings so you can start taking a look at stuff that might interest you in the neighborhood and the price range that you're thinking about? What are they going to say? No, I don't want to see any homes online. No, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, yeah, sure. Well, that's great. Let me grab my paper here a second. So just remind me again, you're looking for what? 4 beds, 2 baths, 2,200 square feet, ranch on all one level. Is that right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. How about top price range? How about area? And you take it all in. Well, this sounds great. I just want to confirm your email and your phone number here. Do I have this right? Is this all correct? Yeah, that's right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set you up on a drip campaign today. And I'm going to you're going to get a link from me. It's going to be a blue activation link. And when you get it, you can start looking at properties. You don't have to worry about going to Zillow or any of these sites, because the system is automatically going to start sending you listings every day as the criteria pops up. And if at any time you see something you like, just call me and we'll go see it. Now, what happens? Inevitably, the husband and the wife said, oh, we're going to buy something 3 months, 6 months. But all of a sudden, they start getting these listings in their email and they start looking at all these houses and they're thinking, I didn't know we could get that much house for that money. Well, shoot, we can afford that. That's way better than what we have now. Hey, look what came up in this area. And the possibilities start coming all up to the surface. And guess what they did with their timeline? Their timeline of 6 months just got cut in half to 3. And in 2 weeks later, they're calling you and they're saying, we'd like to go see this. Or one of their objection handlers could be, we are definitely buying. We don't know who we're using yet, but we really are we've got about 6 more months to go to save up for a down payment. Oh, totally understand. Sure, I get it. Just out of curiosity, how much did you think you needed to save? Well, we figured we couldn't buy a house without 20% down. Oh, actually, that's not true. You can buy a house with as low as 3% down. You can? Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose even though I can buy with 3% down, I don't want to because the payment would be so high. Well, what if we did something like in the middle, like 10% down with no mortgage insurance? Would that work? Oh, yeah, that definitely would work. Well, let me connect you with my lender. You see where this is going? How those conversations go? The number 3, utilize social media more to contact leads. Okay, so the lead comes through, you've called them, you've texted them, and they're not responding. Scott's basically saying, well, what I need to do is I need to go cyber stalk them. I need to go find them on Instagram. I need to find them on Facebook. I need to find them on Twitter. I need to find them anywhere I can find them to see if I can contact them, right? It's worked. It's worked a ton of times before. They're not answering phone. They're not answering text message. You go on Facebook, you find them on Facebook, you go into Messenger, you send them a little messenger. Turns out that's all they look at. That's all they care about. They respond and boom, you're in. Okay. We were using a lead platform called Commissions Inc. at the time, and his number 4 was utilize some filters on Commissions Inc. to filter out the people that he really wanted to work with versus the people he didn't. Doesn't really apply here in this situation. And the last one he had here was block time at the block time in my weekly calendar specifically for internet lead generation. That was his number 5. The point here is you just have to block time for lead generation, period. Not just lead generation, or not just internet lead generation, but just lead generation in general. And so as a rule, I like everyone to block time in the morning. Now you'll hear Bold say, oh, we want you to block 3 hours. We want you to block 4 hours. And people go, are you kidding me? I'm not going to lead generate for 3 or 4 hours. That's fine. Listen, start small. Start with an hour. Just block an hour from 9 to 10. This is going to be my lead gen time. This is the time I'm going to call people. This is the time I'm going to do whatever, okay, to get business. Now I'm going to show you this sheet here. And I called this my easy, simple, stupid lead generation plan, right? For that 9 to 10 time block. And I told my agents, I want you to do the 5 5s. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, the 5 5. So what is the first 5? In that 9 to 10 hour, I wanted them to call 5 seller contacts, okay? Call 5 seller contacts that could be potential sellers. I wanted them to call 5 buyer contacts, okay? I wanted them to go on social media and participate in 5 social media posts. Why did I say it that way? Why did I say participate in 5 social media posts? You notice I didn't say post 5 pieces of social media. I said participate because everybody does social media wrong, okay? They think that just posting about their lives is what social media is about. It's not. What it's about is interacting with other people on the platform. So when Ginny says, hey, her and her husband just had an amazing weekend kayaking in the bay and they saw a bunch of dolphin, I would then reply, hope you had a great time, wish I was there, glad you're having fun, I can't wait to see you. That would be interacting with Ginny on a social media platform. The part that makes a difference is the person who has made the post and sees you interacting with them. You're developing relationship, right? And now you're front of mind for Ginny. That's the part where people get wrong. So I want you to go in and react. I really want you to react to 5 social media posts. Next 5 is I want you to write 5 note cards, handwritten. Go to Vistaprint, get some stationery. It's cheap. Have your team logo, your name, something made on the stationery, little note cards, matching envelopes, keep them on your desk and figure out 5 people every day in your database that you're going to write a note card to. You can't believe how well this works. Probably the best out of all of these, right? People are so impressed when you take time to write them a handwritten card. Seriously. So don't discount it. Have a whole thing of stamps on your desk, be ready to go and make it fast. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to write War and Peace inside of the thing, just something simple. And then here's the last one that's specific to Keller Williams right here. It's this. 5 KW agents. Reach out to 5 Keller Williams agents a day. There's 180,000 agents in this company. There's no possible way you could get through the entire list. Right? How do you know? Great question. Like, who do I call? Start local. Start within the island and then branch out. Then go to Maui. Then go to Honolulu. And then go to Kauai and introduce yourself. You go into Command, right? You go into the referral tab of Command. You say, show me all of the agents in the Maui office. All on the right-hand side. Hit the little button, friend request. Friend them all. When you hit the button that says friend request, it says, do you want to include a note or a message? Yes, you do. And so you open up notes. If you're a Mac guy like me, you open up notes and you type a little note. And the reason why I type it there is because I want to have the same note for everybody. I want to copy it and I want to paste it in every single friend request I send. Hi, it's Dan Palomino over here in Kona. I just wanted to introduce myself. I know you're over in the Maui KW office. I'm trying to reach out and get to know other Keller Williams agents here on the island. I know that referrals are the very lifeblood of our business, and without them, we wouldn't really have a business. So I just want to see if I can connect with you and maybe be the person here in Kona when you think about referring something over here on this island. And in return, I'm happy to give the favor back in return and send somebody to you. Something simple in the friend request. Send them all. I even put a sentence at the bottom that says, and I would love to catch up with you and talk with you about your business on the phone whenever it's convenient for you. So I did this when I first got here. You can't believe how many agents said, yes, I would like to talk to you. And I probably for a full month did nothing but KW phone calls. I talked to people that had gotten my friend request, that wanted to talk about their business, wanted to talk about what was happening on their island, wanted to hear from me. And I just scheduled them. They were just like an appointment in my calendar. And I did a full month's worth of these phone calls. So a lot of people know that I've got an $18 million listing out at Mauna Lani. The $18 million listing at Mauna Lani came from that exercise. I sent a friend request to Tyler Coons over in Maui. Tyler got my friend request. He sent it back and said, I'd like to talk to you. He called me. We had a conversation. He said he had a client that owned an expensive home here. He thought that client would want to sell. Would we be interested in teaming up? And boom, here we are. Okay. That came out of the 5 Keller Williams lead generating activities. Okay. Questions? This is a really simple lead gen plan. 5 seller contacts, 5 buyer contacts, social media, 5 note cards, 5 KW agents. Okay. I think that's on those sheets. All right. Last sheet that I want to share with you is, it's called the one thing. Okay. The one thing on the top, it's called a 411 action goal worksheet. And it's just basically saying, listen, same premise, trying to break down a big goal into a small goal. And you can even start at the bottom if you wanted and say, okay, if I do these weekly goals professionally, then I'll hit my monthly goals. And if I hit my monthly goals, I'll hit my annual goal. If you want to do it from top down, you can do it from top down. What would be your top 5 professional goals? What would they be? And then list down what you have to do on a monthly basis and for that to achieve. And then what would you have to do on a weekly basis? Now, here's what I find. I find that people can really fill out the left-hand side of the column pretty easily. They can absolutely knock out their professional goals, but then they don't spend any time on the right-hand side of the column. They don't spend any time on their personal goals. And if all you do is work in this business, then you get like me and you burn out, you sell everything you own and you move to Hawaii, right? That's what happened. I mean, 8 years of owning 2 Keller Williams offices, having a team of 8, doing 120 transactions a year. One of 2 things were going to happen. I was either going to die or I was going to have to change my life. And I changed my life. So think about what your personal goals are going to be. I made it a personal goal of mine this year to learn how to hydrofoil. So in 2021, I am trying to find somebody who will teach me how to do the hydrofoil out in the ocean. That's a personal goal. That would make life a little fun, right? You might want to, on these personal goals, decide that you're going to create some boundaries, right? I found out that Jen and I had to create some boundaries. So she has some specific rules for me. One of the rules is that I cannot have the phone on during dinner. I have to shut the phone off so I can have dinner with her and the kids. She also doesn't want me taking any phone calls really after 8:30 or 9 p.m. I have my own personal rule, which is I will not look at my phone and I will not look at my email after 9 o'clock. And the reason for that is if something bad is happening and you look at it like 9:45 just before you go to bed, you ain't going to sleep very well. And I learned that the hard way. So I stopped looking at my phone, my computer, and my email at 9 p.m. so I could have a good night's sleep in case there was bad news there. Okay. If you've called my phone, you know I take Sundays off. So we had to make a boundary around that. We had to say, listen, as a real estate agent, you can conceivably work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, all hours. You can do it very, very easily. In fact, I did it for many years. What's going to be your day off? Like, what's the day that you can recharge your batteries, take a nap, watch a football game, play with your kids, go surfing? What's the day that you can relax and have that? And it doesn't have to be Sunday. It can be any day. Now, people told me when I implemented this several years ago, they said, listen, you're going to try to take Sunday off as a real estate agent? You're crazy. You're going to lose so much business. It's just, you're going to die. You can't do that. And I said, well, I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to try. So I put the message on my phone that says I take Sundays off. Well, I was only about a week into it when I got a phone call from a builder on a Saturday. And I was just in this builder's office the day before on Friday with a client. And he says, hey, Dan, and so-and-so, he says, hey, I just want to thank you for coming in yesterday with your client. We were really excited about getting this house built for them. And I just noticed that I was going through the paperwork and there was one document that you didn't sign. I don't know if it got overlooked, but I really need your signature on this to go forward. Is there any chance that you can come down today to the sales office and sign this paper? Because I know you take Sundays off. And I got a big smile on my face and I thought, wow, I've only been in this 1 week and I've already trained my clients to know that I take Sundays off. I trained them already, right? And so this guy's saying, hey, I respect that you take Sunday off. Can I get with you on Saturday? If you have no boundaries about when you work, what time you work, how often you work, your clients will take advantage of that. They will drive you straight into the ground. But if you let them know that you've got some boundaries and they know about what the expectation is ahead of time, then you will train them and you will have a life. Okay? So make sure we got the personal goals down, make sure we got the professional goals down. And basically what you want to do with the 411 sheet or the 135 is paste those someplace around where you're going to see them every day. Put it next to your computer, put it on your wall, tape it to your desk, put it someplace where your eye is going to look at it every day. And you know exactly what you have to do on a day-to-day basis. Okay? Questions as we wrap up here? None? Okay.
Hey, oh, sorry, Dan.
Yeah.
This goes back to farming, I guess. You said that you an agent doesn't really own the area unless they're working 25% of that market. So if you find out that an agent's working 25% of that market, you just kind of go on to the next neighborhood, I guess, because that means it'll be hard for you to get business there. Is that what that means?
Yeah, so let's just do a hypothetical. We'll take Hualalai Vistas, 10 homes sold there in the last 12 months, and Ginny sold 5 of them. She's got a 50% market share in Hualalai Vistas. That's going to be pretty tough to break, right? Ginny's got a stranglehold on that. If she sold 2, well, okay, I'll challenge her, right? And I might go after that market and see if I could break into it. But if she's got 50% of the market in the last 12 months, I might go spend my time and my dollars someplace else.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. Okay.
Other questions? Okay, everybody. So that's going to wrap it up. Obviously, I'm around, so you're more than welcome to come in and chat with me and ask questions about your business plan, and I'll happy to help in any way. But what you've got to do now going forward is take these sheets and fill them out and say, what does it look like for me in 2021? What does that 1,000 macro foot level look like? How many buyers and sellers? How much money do I want to make? And then what does the micro level look like? What do I have to do? What are my strategies? What are my tactics? What's my lead generation buckets? What are my personal and professional goals that I need to meet or want to meet? All right. Okay, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Enjoyed
Thank
it.
you, Dan. That was a really great session. We really appreciate it. It was well
Yeah.
done.
Thank you.
I'll send the video link afterwards when it's done downloading.
Thanks, Jenny.
Sounds great.
Aloha.